Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Write an Episode. I am Tommy Oler. This week we are writing an episode of Boy Meets World. I'm really excited to share this one for you because it was hard. We had a sort of an easy time so far writing shows in the past, and this time around it was difficult. You'll hear us come up with a situation. We're going to discuss it and try to make it work, but in the end we have to switch some things around, and then it all comes together. Like in past episodes, you've heard we've gotten away with our little wild situations, but sometimes this one, it felt kind of forced. So we had to take a step back and try something new, and you'll hear us find that out along the way. You'll hear us learn that lesson, and I think it's really cool. Also, later in the episode, we use a situation inspired by one of Nick's friends, Justin Shockley. Thank you, Justin, for that idea. All right, let's get this thing started. Here are Nick Cox, Casey Shornima, Tommy Oler writing an episode of Boy Meets World with some help and inspiration from Justin Shockley. Thanks again, Justin. Here we are. Hello, everybody. We're going to write an episode of Boy Meets World.
Hello.
Hello. Silence your phone.
Because now I'm Australian.
Oh, yeah, silence the phone. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Here we are talking about writing an
God.
episode of Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World.
Jesus
God,
Christ.
how much did you guys watch? Did you watch a
I
lot?
We just
watched-
marathoned like 3 episodes before we
But
came here.
I've watched like
bless.
a shit ton of it in the last few months, though, because I have multiple friends that as soon as it came out on Hulu, they wanted to watch the entire series again.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of it.
I haven't seen it in more than a decade. And then I watched it, and then it made me realize I hate this show. I really hate it.
I thought it was really funny. There
I
were
thought-
things that just made me
I
laugh.
thought
Like,
Eric was really funny.
Mr. Feeney just now in the episode
We did
watched,
laugh
Mr.
at Eric
Feeney
more
was
than
like,
anyone.
Mr. Feeney was like, oh, I'm going to see you at detention. And then the bully was like, what'd you do, Mr. Feeney? That's funny.
Yeah.
But that was part of Eric's subplot. Like all the funny stuff in the episode was Eric's subplot.
That's true. It did get really serious.
I couldn't. That's every episode.
Yeah,
I
the
just
Corey and
couldn't
Topanga
stand
stuff
it,
was
man.
annoying.
I couldn't stand it.
Well, you know what we should do then? If we don't like the show and the characters, we kill them.
How about I don't? We already did that, and this time I don't want to do so much sex stuff, Nick. I don't want to do
Nick?
like as much.
Is that just me?
I mean, I feel like you are a big primary thing on throwing all that sex stuff in there, but
I feel
Okay.
like you're a sexual predator, Nick.
All right. I don't think that's just me.
I'm kidding.
I want to go back. I want to go back and listen and decide.
Look.
So how long did this show go on? It was on throughout the whole 90s.
Was
It
it
was
7 or
like,
8 years?
I think it was 7.
Yeah.
It was 7, and it was on like throughout all the 90s. It ended in 98, I
Yeah.
think, or 99. Might have ended in 99. And that's crazy to think of. This was a pre 9/11 show. So what if we do? What if we do
9/11.
What if we do
What if we
9/11?
did
What if we did the
9/11?
9/11 episode?
But it's all about how 9/11's impacting Corey and Topanga's relationship.
That would be. I love anytime I hear a joke like that. Honestly, anytime I hear a joke like from like Arrested Development, someone blames 9/11 for how it affects their. We can actually do the episode
Yeah.
where 9/11 affects their relationship.
Yeah, it's like even like in The Office, like whenever Ryan like comes back and he's like, Kelly, I think that we should get back together. I don't think I ever really processed 9/11.
Yeah,
That is
Yeah.
This can be them processing 9/11 and how it kind of breaks them up for a little bit. You guys want to do
It
that?
breaks them up for like half an episode, like every
Yeah,
other
yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like that can be Corey and Topanga's thing.
And then Sean, because you know how in the beginning they make fun of. Well, I don't know if you remember this. They keep making fun of like the joke is always that Sean's poor, right?
Yeah.
Like Sean's poor, white trash, like, and then it's just like, but it's not like it's not like on The Office or something where like Michael Scott would make a poor joke but you're laughing at like the absurdity of him saying that. Mm-hmm. On the show, it's like, oh, Sean's trailer trash, and the audience is just like, he is. That's so funny.
He is trailer trash. His dad dies of a heart attack, and he sees visions of his dad later.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, I think that Sean, his whole life, like everything is like, he's like freaked out and he's afraid of the world because of 9/11. So he goes back to the only thing he knows, the trailer park. Mm-hmm. So he's like an investment banker because at this point,
What if Sean?
he works on Wall Street and he like, so he's really rich and everything, But then because he's so out of his element when a tragedy happens, he freaks out and like reverts back to his childlike state. So all it is he takes all his money that he's earned and he just moves back to the trailer park in Philadelphia.
Okay, yeah.
But then it's like the same thing where every time somebody does something drastic, like the episode where where Eric is just all of a sudden gonna live in like that rural town in Pennsylvania with that girl.
Yeah.
Like if they just go, Corey's dad goes and talks to him just like he did to Eric for like half a second. He's like, "Hey, Sean, I think it's time to go back." And he's like, "All right," and then he goes back. But I mean, obviously, crazier shit would happen.
Okay, so this is the general outline for Sean. 9/11, or he's an investment banker. He's back in town because he's like, I can't. I need to get back to my roots. 9/11 happens, and that inspires him to go back to become an investment banker?
No, like the opposite. So like he's an investment banker, and then he freaks out so hard and like feels so like afraid of the world when 9/11
because
happens.
of 9/11.
Yeah, because of 9/11 that he goes back to the trailer park because that's where he feels safe.
Okay. So I guess
what year are they in college right now?
No.
So this would be just after the graduation, I guess.
Yeah, this would, I guess,
because they were like,
because when did
they were in, I think they were in the middle of college whenever the show ended, right?
Because it started in like 6th grade.
Yeah.
And then it went for 7 years, so they were like second year of college, 98, 99.
Okay.
So 9/11 can be the inciting incident that starts off this whole thing. They're in their comfort zone. 9/11 happens, and then they need to want something because we're going to do the hero's journey again, as always.
But then the unfamiliar situation should be 9/11, then, right?
Well, what would they want? Because shouldn't 9/11 cause something for them? Like, why would 9/11 happen and them want something different? And
Maybe instead of Topanga and Corey breaking up over 9/11, maybe they're broken up and they're like, "Oh my God, 9/11," and they get back together.
That could happen. Yeah.
9/11 brings them together.
Yeah, because they're like, "Oh my God."
So
and they get married on top of the rubble in Ground Zero, like on 9/12/01.
They're already married though. Like by the time
they're married in college.
They get married in college.
Oh yeah.
Oh, actually, the first year of college they get married. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It can be like a thing where you know how people are always like, "Oh my God, like I was supposed to be on a flight that day."
Oh yeah. Okay,
and maybe it can be like Corey's like, "I was supposed to be on a flight, but it's like a flight from like Kansas to Montana." It's just like an irrelevant flight.
Yeah.
And it's like that doesn't matter. I was supposed to be in a car that day. Like I don't know what to say.
Okay, so how do you? They're comfortable. Okay, something breaks them up, and then 9/11 brings them together. Like what? How does that fit in here? What do you think?
You know when people panic and they're like, "Well, I need to reevaluate my life."
Okay.
Or what if we just made it something insane though? This is a Boy Meets World inside thing.
Okay.
What if he finds out that whenever they were young, Topanga had sex with Minkus? And then it makes him want to break up, but then he sees past it because 9/11 brings him
and
back
then
together.
9/11 happens.
Yeah,
that would be a horrible day.
No, they broke up like a few days prior. Like this episode starts on like 9/08. You know what I mean?
People still like upset about 9/11 though. I feel like people are still upset about 9/11. Like
currently,
yeah.
Who gives a shit?
I mean,
yeah. We also had an episode just like where you know a bunch of like a 14-year-old boy strips on a pole. Like people get mad about that all the time.
Okay. So they're comfortable, and let's say Topanga and Corey have a conversation. He finds out that she slept with Minkus. He's like, I can't deal with this. 9/11 happens, and then now
it should be like not, or what if instead of like all our characters like readjusting their lives around 9/11, you know how we're saying like they make 9/11 about their relationship?
Yeah.
Where 9/11 is like an after, like it's like Shaun of the Dead, where at the beginning like all this zombie stuff is happening on TV, but Sean doesn't realize.
It's an
What if it's
afterthought of everything that's going on
Yeah,
about them.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
9/11. They're like, and then I heard this like building.
So
whatever. 'Cause
so
there's,
everyone
like-
around them is talking about 9/11, and then they're just like, Topanga slept with Minkus, though, and
Yeah.
that's what they're doing.
Yeah, so like, oh, what if they've moved to New York and his mom calls, like Corey's mom calls, like, I'm just calling to make sure everything's okay. And he's like, yeah, Topanga left me.
No, I
Or
left Topanga.
You know, I left Topanga. And she's like,
How
I don't
did you
give a
know?
shit
Yeah.
about that.
Why? Do you know? Have you turned on the TV?
It's like, I can't even think about watching TV right now.
Yeah. That'd be. I think it also would be funny if everyone around them is calling it at this point on the day, calling it 9/11.
9/11 just happened. Did you see?
Are you watching 9/11 on TV right now? I think I think the side plot should be Eric knows like one of the hijackers. Maybe he knows Muhammad Atta or whoever one of the hijackers is. He's just really, he's just like, I'm trying to call my friend Muhammad. He's not picking up. But one thing I have a question about though is, what does Corey want? Does he want to? He wants to get back together with Topanga, right?
Yeah.
Well, he wants to like, I guess he just wants to have a good relationship with Topanga, but he just doesn't feel like he can because he doesn't trust her anymore because of Minkus. Or I don't even know if it's a trust issue, because if it was like 10 years prior, or not 10 years prior, but several years prior, then like, let's make it
Maybe
more like,
she's talking to Minkus or whatever on Facebook. Was Facebook there or MySpace or whatever?
No,
Okay, well.
that wasn't until like 2004.
But the what if all it is he's like realizes, oh, when we were in 8th grade, you kissed, like Minkus kissed you at a dance and you never told me about it, even like though she didn't like do anything about it. That feels like a very Boy Meets World-esque, like he would still get upset about it.
Yeah, you kissed Minkus and you didn't tell me.
She's like, Minkus just kissed me and I didn't kiss him back, and he's like, it doesn't matter, Topanga. I thought that we were going to be together forever, and you didn't even.
So they're in New York, and 9/11 happens, and they make it about their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric knows one of the hijackers.
Yeah, he knows Muhammad
And
Atta. I should just say regular.
oh,
He
what
knows-
happens to Mr. Feeney
Yeah, Mr. Feeney has to be in it.
in the plane?
Okay, I don't know what Mr. Feeney's doing.
He's like their super at the building they live at. He just switched jobs. He's like, I just
Yeah, he
started.
has to.
He
has
always
to be.
does
Yeah.
that sort of
Yeah.
thing. He can be their neighbor in the apartment or something like
Yeah.
He's
that.
like Mr. Matthews. But like he has to.
Have you turned on the television today, Mr.
We haven't put. So like, if Eric's subplot though is is that he knows Muhammad Atta, that Eric's subplot has to be the one that weaves in with Mr. Feeney, because later on, like,
Yeah.
I feel like Mr. Feeney and Eric were star-crossed lovers the whole time.
Yeah. They're always like Eric is always trying
When
to
he's like
be
wayward
with Mr.
later
Feeney,
on, then
yeah.
Mr. Feeney's like his
Yeah.
Sherpa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a in my brain seems like a little bit of a tough one because I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out.
There's so many characters in this show.
Yes,
Yeah,
there
and
is.
Because we also
Also-
haven't even mentioned what Topanga wants out of any of this.
It doesn't matter what the woman wants. Irrelevant to this whole conversation.
Okay, so but when does 9/11 happen though in this
On
story?
9/11/2001.
Okay. But
What if
when,
we just change the date? We're like, yeah, whatever. Like 9/11 in this story happens on like the 14th. Yeah.
how soon? Because in my brain, I feel like it's the thing that is like almost the catalyst, but it can't be, because if we do, they're having a conversation, they talk about Minkus, it gets him upset.
Do you feel like, okay, I'm just going to throw this out. Do you feel like the cost value of 9/11 in this episode is paying off? Do you feel like there's value to bringing up, like, or is that just being provocative because it's like, and then 9/11 also happened? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like every time you hear a 9/11 joke, you're like, well, this better be good because
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
9/11 joke. Or like you hear a rape joke, this better be good. It's a rape
Yeah.
joke, It's like,
That's true.
or do you feel like you're just saying rape or 9/11 on stage for no
that's,
reason?
That's basically what we've been doing the whole time. But
No, but I feel like everything is like, at least there's some value to it.
Yeah.
Like even if you put like
Well, I think
Raven's
that
fiance's finger in someone's butthole. It's just like a funny idea.
yeah,
That's true.
but the value of it is that is her proposal, like what we
Yeah.
did.
But also the laugh is the value. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're going to put your finger in someone's butthole. That in itself is value.
And
because it's like,
you're right. I'm not sure if
LOLs.
people will laugh at 9/11
Yeah.
just being happening in the
Right.
background, but it is funny to have an idea. I do think it's funny that 9/11 is happening actively, and
they don't know.
Corey doesn't
and they
care.
don't. Yeah, it's not that they don't know. Like I think they should know that it's
Yeah.
happening. But in the show, they're so melodramatic
Yeah.
that
That
if they can
they-
ignore the greatest national tragedy,
Mm-hmm. Because this to me is more like us mentioning even not having 9/11 happen and then have them being so into themselves seems to me very true to Boy Meets World in
Yeah.
itself. And if we did this episode and 9/11 was happening, it would just make that even more apparent, because there is a lot of moments in the show where they don't even care about the other people around them, and it makes it very apparent. The show makes it very apparent, like whenever Corey is trying to get people to sign his yearbook, he's like, "Oh hey, oh we don't know each other. Oh hey, I barely know you." Like it's because he's so into his own world
Yeah.
that they don't even get to know other people. And then Minkus
so
shows
busy
up.
meeting his own world.
Yeah. And then yeah, and then Minkus shows up in graduation at one point, and he's like, "Oh, we're on that side of the school. That's why you never see me." And there's Mr. Turner over there, and it's been years since you've seen any of them, and it's true. And there's the one episode where Sean is dreaming about everyone dying, and they're all hanging out, and the one kid is like, "What makes you think I'm going to die first?" And then Corey's like, "Well, we're not going to die 1st." And it's like a meta laugh at how they are the important people.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of, if that happens, I think that goes in line with what Boy Meets World is and what they do in the show. But we're taking it on like just another level. Like this is how
It's
into
just a
his
super hyperbolic.
yeah,
next
this is
step.
how into his own world he is, that he's out on the streets looking for Topanga, and everyone is running around freaking out, and he's just like, where's Topanga?
Well, we could also.
Have you seen
If we
Topanga?
want to just to remove to keep the same stakes, but also remove like the shock value out of it, we could just put it like not during a zombie outbreak, just because I think zombie things typically are lame.
Yeah,
But like some sort of epidemic scare or something like that. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
That would make it.
Yeah. The only thing is, like, when you say 9/11, people stop listening. Like, do you know what I mean? There is that value of like, well, what are you gonna say that is worthwhile? You bringing this up,
Yeah,
like
that
I
is
don't know.
True. That
I
is
don't
true.
know.
That's true.
The,
No, that's
the
true.
thing,
I wasn't here for 9/11, so I don't know.
No, I do believe that, because you're right about whenever we see people on stage do this. But at the same time, if we did this reading it out loud to people, we would be pounding them so much with 9/11 that this is the day it's happening, that I think it would kind of go past that, because we would be sitting there talking about, oh, this is 9/11. And it's just kind of like 9/11 is the framing device of this story.
Yeah.
Now, I also agree with you that maybe we can do something else, but I don't.
We
I don't
can
know
do
what else we
either. Honestly, I
well, even like
don't
regardless,
know the
if
scale. I mean, like I do in hindsight, but
well, if
don't
9/11
know
like
how it was. So
I mean, it was super heavy at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, also now. But I mean, like
Yeah.
even then, no. I mean, even then more so, where it was like at the time nobody was gonna make a joke. But like,
I mean,
even
it just makes sense. It's like how people are like every podcast, like the comedians are always saying like, "Oh, that made me actually want to just fuck it and do comedy now because my life changed." Like these are like adults being like, "My life."
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, I was so
felt-
young that I guess it was different.
I was in
you know,
8th grade.
I was in 5th, 4th. I was I don't know. I was 10.
I was in the
Yeah. So that was like 5th grade for me.
Yeah.
So how about, because we are just talking about where we
Yeah.
were during 9/11 right now, I totally agree with you, because it has sidetracked it.
It does like.
So we
take
should
away
just
from what
we
you're
should
doing.
just take
Yeah.
9/11 totally
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, well, and instead, like, even just for now, like, we can just insert mass panic.
Yeah.
Like, so there's something mass panic
Right.
happening, and we can
It
still
could
write
just
the
literally
entire
just
show.
be a made-up panic too. It can just be whatever. Panic.
Yeah, so we can still like write
500 pedophiles in a.
Oh, what if it's just a threat of like nuclear attack?
Yeah.
So
That's
it's just
a much
like- so
better
it's
one
like-
and a very like.
Yeah, so what if it's just like North
like
Korea's about to
relatable.
bomb? Like North
Yeah.
Korea's about to drop a bomb,
What if
or we
they're-
think North Korea.
what if
Or
they're-
what if they're in Hawaii and
What
they
if
get
they're
the
in
text?
Hawaii during the missile
Yeah.
crisis?
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hawaii's missile crisis is taking place, and it's also taking place now. So it's taking place almost 20 years after Boy Meets World ended,
Yeah.
and he's
We're-
still mad that in 8th grade Minkus kissed her.
And they
Do
have
you-
a child, and there's girl
Do you?
meets world.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you know we're now we're just writing an episode of Girl Meets World.
No, we're gonna ignore that girl
No,
Okay.
altogether.
they're in Hawaii. Don't know where the girl is.
Okay, the
Yeah.
girl's
But-
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's-
Okay.
we killed her.
Yeah. Oh, maybe they all do like a reunion in Hawaii, and so Mr. Feeney can just be there with no reason.
And here's the
Or
person.
he works at the resort.
Here's the
only
person.
for the summer.
Eric does the missile thing. Eric is the person.
Yeah, yeah.
that does
He
the missile
just
thing.
is the guy who was
There we go.
doing it.
There
Yeah,
we
I
go.
feel like that has that like that like theory of humor or whatever, where people are like, you want it to be threatening, but you want like a benign threat. Like you want it to be threatening,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want it to actually hurt anyone. You just want it to be like a,
Yeah.
nothing happened kind of threat, and then it's fine.
I feel like we can do this. They are in their comfort zone in Hawaii, visiting Eric,
Yeah,
who is there.
Who works there for the?
Do you still want to have Sean in there? I think we could just kind of throw Sean out and have Eric and Topanga. I mean, Corey and Topanga.
What happens to
and
Sean in Girl Meets World?
He is a photographer writer. He's like
maybe
kind of
he's
like a
just in
National
Hawaii.
Geographic there.
Yeah, so it could just be like that he was like, oh, I was going to go do a shoot on
Yeah.
whatever animals.
Okay.
Anyways.
yeah.
Anyways, so I'm
I'm
gonna
going
do
to
that.
shoot the volcanoes or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, well he
Oh,
can be
maybe
there.
that erupts too.
Oh, yeah, the volcano's going to erupt. Well, the volcanoes are always erupting.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't matter.
Corey and Topanga, our heroes, are comfortable in Hawaii visiting Eric, and Sean is there too. He's on work assignment,
Sean is there too.
and the kids are in Philadelphia, whatever. And then that's whenever Corey, what does Corey want? I guess in this situation, is he talking to Topanga? I guess
What
the
what's
unfamiliar.
the
How
guy's
does he
name?
find
What's
out-
the guy's name that fucks Topanga?
Minkus.
Minkus. What if Corey's like, well, you fuck Minkus? I'm going to go fuck Minkus too. And he just goes
Oh,
around
if
the
Minkus-
resort looking for Minkus to fuck Minkus, whether Minkus wants it or not.
So now you're like, we can't do a rape joke, and then you just propose a rape joke.
I didn't say we can't do a rape joke. I'm just saying.
What if
That's
what if
boring.
Minkus is just there by chance too,
Boring.
and then that's how.
Oh, and
'cause
then
there
how
has
That's
to
to
find
how
out.
they run into Minkus.
And then
at
he
there.
they're like, let's just catch up. You're like, we used to hate you.
Yeah.
Like, we never knew why. I'm sorry about that. And he's like, oh, it's fine. He's like, I thought you guys hated me because whenever we were in like 7th grade, I kissed Topanga once.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, what?
Yeah. And then Minkus is like, well, I'll see you later.
What's
and then
the thing-
Minkus is
what-
gone.
Minkus had the thing that he would say. He had like a catchphrase, didn't he?
I don't remember.
I'm
Oh,
Minkus.
we'll
I'm
figure
a
this
dinkus.
out. We're gonna figure out what the Minkus
I'm
catchphrase
Minkus.
We
was.
should make a
Yeah,
difference.
his catchphrase is just,
Yeah.
hello, I am Minkus.
So they're out on a resort having a good time. They see Minkus. Minkus tells them, thought you guys always hated me because I kissed Topanga in 7th grade. And that causes them...
Wait, what if he tells just Corey and Sean that? Like
Okay.
Topanga's like somewhere else?
Yeah.
And they throw him off the boat that they're on. And you just, they don't say he's dead, but you just they just don't address it again.
And they're on a boat. Okay.
Yeah, they're just like cruising around like on this little thing that they rented,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then they finds out and Corey just like, well, and he pushes them off and they go into shore and the crowd laughs.
Yeah.
And then Topanga's like, oh my God, where is Minkus? And then Corey's like,
It
well,
doesn't
you
matter.
would look for him, wouldn't you?
what does Corey
Fucking
want? What does he want?
He wants Topanga to have never desecrated her honor in that way.
So he
You want something
he
that's
finds
unattainable.
out Topanga kisses Minkus. That makes him angry. So what does he want to do?
He just wants he wants revenge. That's funny.
He wants revenge.
He wants revenge. So he has to go kiss
That girl that...
Till was her name Tilly? The girl that
She's like
Brittany
Brittany
Murphy
Murphy?
played her.
Okay.
And we were watching the third season. Brittany Murphy played her, and she was Topanga's friend. And they
And
went on
Corey and her went on a date.
Yeah, whenever Sean and Topanga go on that date.
Oh, maybe he doesn't kiss her because it wouldn't make sense if she was there because it's like not everyone on the show is there. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't need to be there. Maybe he Facebooks her and says something like, "Ooh, your lips look delicious" or something.
Or he sends her a dick pic.
Oh yeah. That's like kind of the same.
He wants to make Topanga jealous. He wants to make Topanga feel the way he feels.
Yeah, because he's still like immature.
Okay.
Like, they've never grown.
Like that's a thing that he would have done on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
That's the thing that he did in third season anyway.
Yeah.
Like when he went on a date with her.
And then the unfamiliar situation happens. They go out, and he is not with Topanga. He feels unfamiliar, and then that's whenever the missile alert happens. But he's so into finding this woman or something, or trying to get revenge, that he's kind of out of it. He doesn't care.
Yeah, and everyone's like freaking out. So like the missile alert happens maybe at the beginning of the episode.
Okay.
He doesn't know, but everyone is panicking. Or maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe in the middle. Just because that thing lasts 45 minutes, right? Or
Yeah.
40 minutes or something.
Yeah. Well, this episode
Yeah,
would be
a
like,
little bit of 20.
yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so let's say it happens like on the 5-minute mark. Like the missile alert happens on the 5-minute mark.
Okay.
So everything happens before that. And then by the end, they find out it's an alert. And that's when Corey finds out it ever even happened.
Okay. At the end.
Where he like checks his phone.
Yeah.
Or maybe he finds out and he's like, I hope we do die. Nothing matters anymore. Anyways, she kissed him. And
Well, I think that's funny, the idea of like him just never knowing until the end of the episode and everyone else freaking out.
yeah.
But to keep like our plot devices there,
Yeah.
I don't know because how are we going to get him in that unfamiliar situation if he doesn't know that that's happening? You know what I mean?
I think.
Like how does he react to the
I think to him, in his brain, the unfamiliar situation is trying to get revenge on Topanga and
Okay.
actively searching out.
So his
someone
unfamiliar
to
situation
kiss.
is hitting on women.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hitting-
That can be a thing.
Hitting on women to make Topanga jealous.
Is Topanga the only girl he's ever kissed?
No, there were some other there was the one in
On a ski trip, he kissed a
Oh.
girl.
yeah, on the ski trip was the girl from Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
Mm,
Who's
okay.
also in Avengers. And then he adapts his situation. He gets better at hitting on women, I guess, Sean wouldn't help him, though.
He might. You'd think Sean would be like tagging along and being like, "Well, I want to keep my friend out of trouble." So like Corey's like doing crazy stuff, and he's like, "You shouldn't do this, Core."
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, he's not gonna like let Corey get himself. So Corey's like acting crazy, and Sean's just like, sort of like doing damage control the whole time around.
Yeah,
him.
okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And because
In like a very like slapsticky way.
yeah, that sounds good, because what Sean wants can be to stop Corey from trying to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
revenge.
But he's not gonna like literally hold Corey down.
Yeah, he's not
so,
going. Corey is his own man, but he's going to try to maybe help him out.
So like whenever Corey's the unfamiliar situation, the adapting is Corey
Getting
trying
away from Sean.
No, or that's Corey just saying fuck it and just doing it and like hitting on women at bars and shit in Hawaii.
Okay.
So like, but because he's unfamiliar with it and not good at it, he's never had to do it. He can just be like going up to women like that are with guys and just like being like, "Excuse me, ma'am, I was wondering if you potentially want to have sex with me later on in the evening after a few drinks," and then Sean has to be there to like take the hit for Corey whenever he's like, "No, I don't think." He's like, "Corey, let's back away." He's like, "What the fuck did you say?" And then he's like, "All right." So he like gets in like has to like back Corey up in these fights and stuff, you know.
Corey's getting into fights.
But Sean's the trailer trash one, so Sean has to be the one that actually gets in the fight.
Yeah, but we got to remember that all at this moment. Oh my gosh! I just had an idea.
What?
The unfamiliar situation. The missile alert is going in. He's adapting, and he gets what he wants because there's women at the bar who think they're going to die. And thinks it's over, and so it makes it really easy for him to get revenge on Topanga and kiss and make out with some women.
And as soon as
Yeah,
a
and
woman kisses him, like grabs him and kisses him, he's like, "This isn't what I wanted.
Yeah,
it's the end of the world. All I want is Topanga."
Yeah, and so now he has to go find Topanga.
Wait, so this whole time Topanga doesn't even... Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, but this whole time Topanga doesn't even realize that he's going through all of this. Where's Topanga?
Well, let's figure out Topanga's side story after we like flesh out his. Because
Okay.
if they can just be happening in parallel,
Okay.
then like if they're separate the whole time, this could be in like an alternate future. Because theoretically, if it's happening today, like it can be an alternate today where like phones don't exist because it makes it easier to not have to like just address with that they know exactly what each other are doing the whole time.
Well,
And you
one
have to go alternate future. Maybe it's like a cruise where you put the phones away.
Are they on a cruise?
I don't know.
well
I think
they're
it's
in,
pretty much
Well,
the
it's
same.
both.
they're in Hawaii, and maybe we can get them to.
That's true. If they're on a cruise and it explains away how we just push Minkus off the boat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say cruise because they wouldn't necessarily get a missile alert, but they can be on a boat and not get an alert because maybe
They don't have signal.
well, it's not that they don't have signal. Maybe Topanga is like, let's put the phones away. Let's experience this. How many times do we get to go to Hawaii?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she's and because that's also
a thing.
that's also in her character.
Yeah.
And that is a thing. That is a thing to put the phones away and have an experience and be real. And you don't see and don't understand a missile alert thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And so he gets what he wants because women are there and afraid they're going to die and they want one last connection before they're dead. And they settle for Corey doing his bad Albert Brooks impression.
Maybe they're just in the resort then. Because why are women on his boat?
It is an Albert Brooks impression.
It is.
Go
Yeah,
on, I never
it is.
thought about
No,
it.
I didn't know that freaking either until I started watching it. When I was a kid, I didn't know who Albert Brooks was, but then I watched his movies, and then I watched this, and I'm like, this guy's just doing Albert Brooks.
Well, yeah, like I was watching it earlier, and now I'm thinking back, and I'm like, Broadcast News is one of my favorite movies, and I'm like,
Yeah.
he is. All of this we're talking about is Broadcast News, where it's like, yo, I'm gonna do all this to get revenge on you.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Did,
He also looks like him.
yeah. Did it just open
I'm
your eyes?
Yeah, I'm just freaking out right now.
I'm sure there's going to be some people who hear this and they're like, it is. He's just doing Albert Brooks. He's just Albert Brooks as a kid. Yeah. So
You know, Albert Brooks' real last name is Einstein. His name's Albert Einstein.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No,
Yes,
it's
I
not.
swear to God, it is.
No, it's not.
Look it up.
No, it's
Look
not.
It up.
I'm not going to look that up because that just
Look
justifies
it up.
like,
Because it's
I don't
because
want
it's
to dignify what
no.
you're
It was
saying.
Rob
Look
Reiner
up.
talking about how
Yeah.
there's 3 generations. So Carl Reiner is best friends with Mel Brooks.
yeah.
And Rob Reiner's been friends with Albert Brooks like his whole life.
Uh-huh.
He's talking about how all the Reiners last names are Reiners and none of the Brookses are related because Brooks isn't any other actual last names.
Albert Lawrence Einstein.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Just like Mel Brooks, that's not his last name.
Yeah.
What's Mel Brooks' last name?
I don't know, probably Einstein.
Yeah, probably Einstein.
No, Mel Brooks hates Jews.
Mel Brooks, what?
He's Jewish.
Mel Brooks is so Jewish.
Wait, I'm thinking of Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
It's like Mel-
I cannot believe you confused Mel Brooks and Mel
I
Gibson.
don't know.
Just because of
So,
Mel?
Yeah.
Mel.
Well, at least it's because of a name and not
Yeah,
like some
But still,
characteristic they
but still,
share.
that's like the oldest lady thing I've ever heard you do.
Yeah, Mel Brooks' name's Melvin Kaminsky.
Oh.
Melvin. Is
Never considered that Mel Gibson's name would be Melvin,
Melvin,
Gibson
I
until
know.
right now.
Hi, my name is Melvin Gibson.
Gibson.
I'm the road warrior.
My name's Melvin Gibson, and I have one question. Are you Jewish?
Yeah.
I request another server then.
Okay. So Corey kisses another woman who's in search for a connection. The price he would pay, I feel like the price he would have to pay is internally he feels awful, and then Sean is like, I can't believe you did this, Corey.
Yeah.
Maybe
And then maybe
Sean
it's one
leaves
of those cliffhangers where Topanga finds out and it's just like a look and like a shake of her head and then walks away, and then that music plays where it's like
So we're gonna end our Boy Meets World on a cliffhanger. We're not
every
even gonna
single
resolve it?
Boy Meets World ends in a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I know.
And if it is resolved, they
Nothing
resolve
happens.
like one of the plot lines, but there's always so many loose ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in the one that we just watched, like the one where he goes, like Sean goes on the date with Topanga. It's like the 3rd season. And Corey was like, I want to ask you to be my girlfriend. But then she's like, oh, no, I'm going on a date with someone else. and it's Sean. So he brings Brittany Murphy. At the end, him and Topanga kiss, but they never address his anger towards Sean. Like, he was like furious with Sean
Sean's
and
not
him. They
even
were
there.
going he wanted to like get in a fight
Sean
with
just
Sean.
walked out.
Sean just like walked out of the room, and then they're just like, we're just not going to address any of that. We're not going
And
to resolve it.
it's going to happen in the next episode where him and Sean probably talk it out. And
Yeah,
Sean's
but-
probably like, I
But
was just trying to make you
here's the thing
see.
for us, though. We should at least try to resolve it because we're not getting another episode.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do another episode
Yeah.
of Boy Meets World.
What
'Cause
if
you
it,
don't
what if
like
at the end
Boy
of the
Meets
episode,
World?
what if we resolve it by just the nuclear bomb hits? Like, it's true.
In this one, it doesn't.
Yeah, what if in this one Eric did it as a joke, but it was just coincidentally like, oh no, there was one.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't think Eric does it as a joke. He does it because
Like,
he's stupid.
he's stupid, yeah.
He's stupid. And I don't know where we would have to reveal that at the end.
That he's stupid.
Yeah, like he's home and they're like, oh, they're staying at Eric's place, and then they come home. And they're like, Eric, what are you doing here? He's like, I got fired. I messed up one missile alert thing, and they fired me. And then that's whenever you know that he's the guy that sent the missile alert. Okay.
Oh, maybe his parents retired in Hawaii. Okay, we don't have to think about why they're in Hawaii, but maybe they went to visit his parents. And
Well, Eric
His
lives
da-
there.
okay,
That's Eric works at the
At the
emergency
missile
alert
defense,
system
yeah.
place. Okay. So I think they pay the price. Sean is like, whatever, I'm not dealing with this. And then let's say he goes back to Topanga. That's his return to familiar. Is Corey goes back to Topanga, and maybe he tells her the truth, and it changes him, and maybe she does leave him. Like maybe she is like, yeah, I'm not gonna put up with this. I kissed Minkus in 7th grade. You kissed a woman today during a missile alert.
And you were 40.
Yeah, and you're
and you have a daughter.
Yeah.
you're 40 years old. You have a daughter, and guess what? Where did you even think where I was during this missile alert? And he's like, missile alert. I guess how about that is whenever he finds
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
he's like, what? And then
And then she's like, yeah, the whole thing, and she starts to explain, everybody's like, yeah, there's a missile alert, and there's probably a North Korean missile that's coming right now.
yeah.
And then he's like, but back up, are we together or not?
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. And they still think
I hope he says, but are you my girlfriend or not? And she's
they're
like,
married,
We've been
and he's
married for
We've
years.
been married for 20 years. Are we my fucking girlfriend?
that's good because I feel like she can forgive him quickly because the missile is still incoming to them. There's still a thing coming, and
Yeah.
then they say let's go home, and then they take a walk on the beach. They take their what they think is their last walk. They get to Eric's house, and they just see Eric just calm, doesn't care. He's watching TV. He's probably watching cartoons or something. He looks very lazy and relaxed, and they're like, what's up? And he's like, I got fired for this whole missile alert thing. And then that can be like kind of it, right?
Wait,
However,
so does the missile detonate or no?
Well, if there's that's, I don't know, that the little twist of like, oh, there actually was a missile, but like that's
That
just
doesn't matter.
coincidence. Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
need that.
I mean, we could.
If
I
it does
I-
that,
Yeah, we
then-
could just
if
so
it
it
does
wraps
that-
up everything, just so it's like, and then
so it's
Boy
like,
Meets
let's
World was
not
over
talk
forever.
about Girl Meets World anymore.
Yeah.
It's over.
Girl
Yeah,
Meets
'cause
World
then-
has been canceled.
Because then
Yeah, it
they
is
can
over.
be like, oh my God, look at that pretty sunset. And it's just
It's just a mushroom
nuclear
cloud.
weapon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that instead of Corey just kissing a girl, because he's trying to get back at her, he like fingers a girl, which I think is so funny for a 40-year-old man to finger
Yeah.
a stranger at a bar.
You want to?
Or no, he just feels her up. Like he just
Yeah.
like kisses a girl and then like squeezes
Just
her
touches
boob.
her nipple, yeah.
Yeah.
touches her.
But he does it in like a way that's
But
not
he's
even
like
really.
also crying the whole time.
Yeah, he does it in a way that's like also not sexual.
Yeah.
Like he's not like, it's not like in the course of anything. He's like, he just like kisses her, backs away, pulls out her shirt like collar, and reaches down with the other hand. He's like standing 2 feet away.
It's like a
Just
like a
touches
robot
it.
who can't do two things at once. He has
Yeah.
to kiss back up. Kiss again.
That's it.
Okay, we have Corey's Corey's journey. However, once Sean leaves, that would be the end of Sean. And I do kind of like the idea of the missile hitting at the end.
Yeah.
Like maybe the way we wrap up Sean.
Maybe it's like one of those, like, a girl's like, photograph me like one of your French girls, and then they just die.
And then he whenever he goes to
he looks through the viewfinder and he sees the mushroom cloud.
or like whenever he presses the button,
It explodes.
The flash happens. He's like, I didn't turn on flash, and then he's vaporized.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
That's good, yeah.
That's good.
He looks.
So then all we need then is like in the middle. So from the unfamiliar situation to pay really just from the unfamiliar situation to pay the price, we need to see what Topanga's been doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she's there in
Yeah.
the beginning and at the end.
I think okay, so yeah, she's at the beginning and then at the end, and that's all she is doing.
What if that middle plot? What if that's where we find like the middle, like where Topanga is? What if that's where we find Mr. Feeney?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just for him to make his
So-
little
Does
cameo.
Topanga have a good relationship with Mr. Feeney?
I feel like everyone does.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone does. So what we can do is we can come in on Topanga when the missile alert happens, and I feel like we can get some comedy out of seeing the dichotomy between the two stories. Corey's idiocy and her like being serious, and they can separate here. Like they can be like, this is where they can be together, and they go out on the boat. Him and Sean go out on the boat with Minkus, and then she's like, all right, well, you boys have fun on the boat. I'm gonna go read and just relax at Eric's beach house or whatever. And she goes, and then she gets the missile alert. She goes and she texts Corey, and then she hears his phone buzz, and she's like, oh no. And then she just kind of goes out to the beach, finds his like people are freaking out, finds his boat docked, and then she goes in search of him and doesn't find him. And then she concludes, I'll just go back to the apartment because what if he has come back? And that's what she's done.
That makes sense.
Oh, and the way she can go back to the apartment is she meets Mr. Feeney. She tells Feeney that she's looking for Eric and that she's afraid, or she's looking for Corey and that she's afraid, and Mr. Feeney gives her the advice to go back to Eric's apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's because him and Eric are dating, and he knows where he lives.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was talking about writing an episode of Boy Meets World recently, and his whole view was he just wanted Mr. Feeney to get pregnant with Eric's baby.
I do like that. We can
That's
have
a
that. We can have that as a subplot. I feel like we could actually do that. Maybe
We could just have it to where like he's like, we'll just go back to our place. And he's like, your place. And like, oh, I live with Eric. Don't you know?
what
and
if
like, he's Eric's house husband?
What if, so that way we can reinforce them being together? What if instead of like looking or finding Mr. Feeney, she calls Mr. Feeney?
Yeah.
And then he is like in Jackson Hole where he always wanted to be. He is on vacation from Hawaii living with Eric because him and Eric are married. What if
But
they
Eric
are
is in
married?
Hawaii, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Feeney and Eric have gotten married.
Yeah.
They
And
live
Mr.
in
Feeney
Hawaii.
is carrying his baby.
And Mr. Feeney is pregnant in Jackson Hole.
Well, he doesn't. I mean, like he always wanted to be in Jackson Hole. What if instead he is in Hawaii?
Yeah.
But he's just saying, I always thought in the end of the world I would just be sitting in my place in Jackson Hole,
Yeah.
just letting it happen.
Yeah.
But like he could just have a line like that in his whole his the resigned thing he always does, where it's like this sarcastic thing, where like in the one that we just saw where the guy made the joke and he said, he's like, "Oh, what'd you do, Mr. Feeney, about going to detention?" And Mr. Feeney said something in a past life, I'm sure. It could just be a thing where like, well, what are you gonna do? And it was like, well, I figured at the end of the world I'd be sitting in my place in Jackson Hole,
Yeah.
but I guess I'll just be here in me and Eric's studio apartment. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like it's just funnier if he's there.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if
I do too, but I love the idea of having those Eric and Mr. Feeney actually be in a relationship and married, but I don't want to like shoehorn it in. But I do
it's not a big deal.
want.
It's 2018. They're married.
Yeah. No. The thing is though, like, why wouldn't Mr. Feeney be at the apartment, and why would he be out and about, and then give her information? Go back to my house.
Well,
Why wouldn't he be at his house?
Well,
Wait,
even
why
he
don't
could,
we
he could
just
be at the
do-
house. You could just call him and be like, "Hey, have you seen Corey?" And just be like, "He's probably just going to come back here. You should just come back here."
why don't we just
Like,
do?
he could be there.
Are we talking about where Topanga is?
Yeah, well,
Well, if Mr. Feeney is in his apartment, Topanga, they're living in a hotel, right? Like they don't have to stay with Eric.
Well, I think they were going to stay with Eric whenever they're in Hawaii. That was like the idea.
yeah, they're staying with Eric. They
What if they
come-
just went to visit Eric? Do you know what I mean?
Well, no,
Why
I
would
mean
you have
that.
to stay with Eric?
Why? I mean, why would they? Because the idea before is that like that's how. Because Corey's going to come back because he left his phone. And he's just going to end up back at the place, and that's where Topanga is waiting on him. Like I think they're just going to stay with him because people do that. But like this way, it has a way for Corey to have not had a phone and still run back like into all of them, and for everyone to end up together at the end of the episode.
And plus, an apartment adds just an extra location that we don't, or a hotel adds an extra location that we don't really need, especially if we centralize Eric's apartment is where they're all staying.
Yeah.
So then Mr. Feeney would already be there.
Yeah, so then he could just like it doesn't have to be that she like physically runs into Mr. Feeney.
Mm-hmm.
She
What
could
if
just call
she
Mr.
physically
Feeney.
runs into Mr. Feeney and instead of, because I feel like Topanga's story is just like her just being like, oh, where's
Being worried, yeah.
whatever, which is like so stupid because that's just like a non-story. That's just like, what if instead Mr. Feeney was home and Topanga was home because they're all in the same apartment, and Mr. Feeney takes a pregnancy test and that's when they find out and they're like, how the fuck is this possible?
Oh,
and
wait,
that's
wait.
the whole story.
So check
that
it out.
Topanga's line is.
So if she's going back to the apartment, Mr. Feeney's there, but Eric's there too because he got fired. She can know when everyone else doesn't know yet that it's not real.
Oh, okay,
So she could not be freaking out. Instead, she's like, we'll just have to wait for Corey to get back here then.
Yeah,
And they're all just back at the apartment. They're not freaking out because they don't think it's the end of the world.
yeah.
And she doesn't know that Corey knows that she kissed Minkus. So they're
Wait,
just
they
having
don't know that it's the end of the. Never mind. Okay.
So like if Eric's there, then like he could have been like, oh, I accidentally just screwed up and I sent that. Like they're like, okay, well then it's not an actual bomb then. He's like, no. And so they're just like, all right, I guess we just have to sit it out and wait for Corey to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when Mr. Feeney takes the pregnancy test, and then she's like, oh my god. So that'll be the cliffhanger.
And then they don't want to tell Eric.
Yeah.
So that's like their storyline is that they're just in.
Well, they don't even have to have a whole
How
storyline.
is this possible?
That could like happen at the end, of, like right before Corey gets there, and then that could be like how there's always one unresolved plot line
Yeah.
for the next episode. That's what that would be, of like a little thing where he's just like, so say at the end like Topanga and Corey are like, oh, you know, like once they resolve their thing, and they're like, at least we're together.
But here's the thing, though. The way they resolve their thing is because Topanga thinks they don't have much time left together, and that she's like, I can't spend my last moments worrying about what you did whenever deep down I really love you. And that's how they resolve it, is because she believes the missile is incoming.
Maybe instead of that's how they resolve it, maybe Eric's like, I kissed a girl because I thought.
You mean Corey?
Yeah, Corey's like, I kissed a girl because I thought you were like or because you kissed whatever, and she's like, that's not a big deal. You just kissed a girl. You thought the world was gonna end or something. Wait, he didn't know that.
No.
You didn't know that he was out to get revenge for her. I do think it's simpler to, for a couple reasons. It makes it easier for it to resolve them and resolve their differences, and establishes more of like their core love for each other. And also, it seems too quick for Eric to have sent the missile alert and then come home like really fast.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh no, and then he's there like pretty quickly.
Oh, so if like so what if like they're all freaking out, and then Eric just kind of stumbles in at the end, and they're like, "What are you doing home from work so soon?"
Yeah.
And then he's just like, "Oh yeah, I screwed up. I sent a thing." So
Yeah.
that's like at the very end.
Yeah, well that's what we were talking about. They come home and then they find him just relaxing and like.
Or
Wait,
if
no,
if they're already back at the
home.
apartment, yeah, they're home,
Eric's
and then Eric
not
shows up home,
and then
tells
Eric
them.
comes home.
Okay.
So like so instead of them walking into Eric and he's like, "Oh, I got fired,"
Yeah.
Eric walks into them and they're like, oh, the blah, blah, blah. And you see that, whatever
Yeah.
it is. Like, obviously he would have seen it. They would have known that. But he's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, that's not real. I just screwed up.
Yeah.
You know.
He comes home with his box of
So that whole
belongings.
thing is the same still. That whole plot device is still the same.
Yeah,
It's just
everything is the same.
It's just
Eric
it just
was never
inverted.
there.
Yeah, Eric was just
Yeah.
instead of them all walking in to see Eric, Eric walks in to see all of them, and then he tells them.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Mr. Feeney and Topanga can be at the apartment alone together.
Mr. Feeney and Topanga can be alone together
Yeah.
at the apartment.
Yeah, so they'll be
Yeah.
alone together, and then Corey shows up, and then that whole thing happens, and then Eric shows up. So that way, when Corey gets there, they still think it's the end of the world.
Now that there's a baby, do you still want the bomb to go off?
Yeah. Yep.
Gonna kill the imaginary. You don't want to kill
Oh,
the.
it's a miracle, Mr. Feeney, who is
Oh,
well
wow.
past
No.
his age of having a baby.
Yeah,
He's
no,
in-
and then they
he's in
talk
his
about it. They go,
90s.
if they're like, you're a man, if you get a positive pregnancy test, all it means is you have prostate cancer.
That should be the end.
They look it up on the
Yeah, like,
oh, actually, you might have prostate cancer. They vaporize. They're gone. I do like that. Okay, so does Topanga never leave the apartment then?
no, she could have left, and
What does
like,
she need to leave for?
if they were like gone, like if say they were all hanging out, and then they were like, oh, we just found Minka, so we're gonna go out on a boat. You want to come with us, Topanga? And then she's like, no, I think I'm just gonna hang out here for a while. And then she like walks around and goes back to the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, they're all like out hanging out on the beach, whatever. Like that's
Yeah.
how it's established. Like, oh, so, like it could open on like, it's so great to be in Hawaii visiting Eric. Just establish it
Yeah, yeah.
right up top. They're hanging out on the beach, blah blah blah. Then she makes her way back to the apartment whenever they go out on the boat with Minkus, and then so at the same sort of time period as like they've pushed Minkus off the boat and they're now like at the like tiki bar on the beach
Yeah.
trying to get laid. That's when like she gets back to the apartment, and so like at the same time as Corey's trying to get laid, that's when Mr. Feeney's finding out he's pregnant / has
Yeah.
prostate cancer.
And then the missile alert.
And then the missile alert happens like so the missile alert happens like right when that happens.
Yeah. So he wants to get revenge. They go to the tiki bar. She gets to the house. Mr. Feeney finds out he's pregnant. Missile alert happens. Corey does not get that. He doesn't see it. She tries to text Corey, realizes his phone is at the house. And then he is adapting to the situation of trying to get laid.
revenge.
Or get revenge and get laid or touch a boob, whatever.
Yeah.
And then
He like honks
love it.
he like honks the boob too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then
He doesn't touch the nipple.
and then Topanga adapting is her going out and looking for Corey for a second, and then maybe going back to the boat to find if Corey is back yet for the missile alert.
What if her adapting is just thinking like, okay, Corey's gonna come back here soon. He'll find out and he'll come back.
She doesn't have to adapt, right?
Yeah, she doesn't really have to.
She just has to like.
Yeah, she could just
None
be like,
of the other characters really have.
Yeah,
So
to
we
she
shine.
don't
doesn't
need
adapting.
to give her
yeah, her
a
whole
journey.
adapting can just be trying to freak out trying to comfort the freaking out Mr.
Yeah.
Feeney because he's like, I can't be pregnant. I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Like. So like that could be what she's just like taking on this caretaker role.
Yeah,
And then Topanga's like quietly freaking out, but being like, Corey will come back. It'll be fine.
yeah.
He'll be here.
They have to freak out proportionally to the missile alert. Like, we have to believe that not only is he pregnant, but now he's going to die, and she is afraid she's not going to get to be with Corey in his final moments. And maybe she wants to go out and search for Corey, but that's when Mr. Feeney says, just stay here.
I'm pregnant.
I mean, number one, I'm freaking pregnant.
Yeah.
Number two,
My prostate hurts.
number two, my prostate, I feel like I'm sitting on a cushion right now. It's huge. And she says, Corey will be back here. This is the place he comes to. He'll be back. And then that's when Corey gets what he wants. People are freaking out. A woman in search of a connection chooses Corey. He feels guilty. Sean's like, screw this, man. I can't believe you did that. He goes off. And then they return. Corey returns home. And he's changed whenever he returns home. He goes back to Topanga is his return to familiar. And they talk about what he did. she forgives him, and then that's whenever they return to comfort. And then this whole thing is whenever Eric walks in, is like, hey, I got fired. I sent that thing. And Mr. Feeney's like, oh, this could be prostate cancer. I guess, you know what? No.
He's relieved that it's prostate cancer?
No. He has to tell Eric, and Eric has to have some sort of response.
Yeah, he has to say, like, Eric, I had a positive pregnancy test. I think we're going to have a baby. And he just goes, you're a man. You have prostate cancer.
That means you have prostate cancer. Look at your baboon balloon huge butt.
and then like, oh, and then whenever the credits roll, like how they sometimes the credit thing, that's when Sean's camera thing happens.
Yeah. And then they get vaporized. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I think
we did it.
Yay.
Yeah.
We wrote an episode.
of Boy Meets World.
This boy met world.
We did it. We wrote an episode of Boy Meets World. Okay, cool.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations to us.
Because Y chromosome.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's cum and prostate.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Thank you so much. Remember to leave a review and subscribe if you haven't already. And check us out next week whenever we live read this episode to a very lovely audience. And if you would like to come to the next live show, you can get the details from us via social media. All the links to follow us are in the description of the episode. And just before I let you go, I got a podcast I want to recommend to you guys. It's called Wives' Tales. It's really, really great. Join the hosts Shelby and Jenny each week as they dive into creepy mysteries, dark urban legends, twisted folklore, and crazy cryptids. It's so much fun to listen to, and I highly recommend you guys take a listen to it. If you like this podcast, I'm sure you're going to find something to love in that one. And thank you so much again for listening to Let's Write an Episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Hey guys.
Hey y'all.
I'm Shelby.
I'm Jenny.
And we are Wives' Tales.
Yeah, we're a weekly podcast all about dark mysteries, twisted legends, spooky folklore, and creepy creatures.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can find us anywhere podcasts are played pretty much.
Yeah.
Y'all keep it twisty.
That's right. Bye.